Hi everyone, I've been playing with the OPXY's tape track a lot recently, and I keep on stumbling on more and more that I want to share. As a result, this video is super dense and I'm not going to spend much or any time going over the basics. I'm just going to jump right into the examples. One quick important note before we get started, I'm on firmware 1.0.45, and in 1.0.45 you still can't parameter lock the first page of the tape track. You can parameter lock the LFO, you could parameter lock basically anything else, but you cannot parameter lock this first page. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get going with the examples. I've made a little 4-pattern song here, and it's just got a very basic drum beat, a pad, there's a bass in one of the scenes, or 3 of the scenes I guess, a little melody, and near the end there's a drum break, and it's just an amen break that I did not edit, that I found online. I think it's Ed Solo did it. I just pitch shifted it to match the tempo. The first example is going to be a very basic chorus effect that we can do with the tape track, and this is nothing too original, but we're going to take this and then we're going to later on turn it into a way of adding harmony and a little bit more than that. So let's go ahead and get started here. First, I'm going to make sure that I'm in octave 0. So that way I'm not doing a faster or slower playback. I'm going to make sure that the first parameter here is 1 time, because I just want it to play through at 1 time speed. I want it to be a little slow, so I'm going to change the second parameter to being 99. I'm going to change the third parameter to being 16, at least for now. And this fourth parameter, mix, I'll change to being 50. Only the pad is being sent to the tape track, so my goal here is to add a chorus effect to that pad. One challenge is that if I have it play the first F here, what's going to happen is because it's playing the last measure, you're going to hear anytime there's a chord change, there's like a 1-bar delay you get to hear happen again. And that could be fine, but that also might be annoying. Here's what that sounds like though. A couple of things that we can do about this. One is that we could, if we wanted to, take this step and press plus a few times to nudge it off time. Then we'll open up bar and change the first parameter to make sure this is not quantized. And there's some real funky stuff going on with the note duration here, but I'm just going to go ahead and ignore that for now. And let's just make it so this doesn't last quite the whole way. Well, it'll last the whole way. We'll see what happens. So there are a couple ways that we can make this same exact effect a little bit more subtle. One of which is going to be going to the third parameter, and I'm going to send it to the effects. And that's just going to help it blend a little more. We're still getting a little bit of that gap when things start over, and part of that is because since the pad is like always increasing and decreasing in volume, when this jumps back, it's going to be a different volume than what was just played. And we could try to smooth it out a little bit more if you want. Like we could just have it be play back every 4. And just have it play back basically an 1/8 note behind constantly, right? I don't know if there's a difference between this and changing parameter 3 to 16 and making this last one way through. I've just found this to be a bit less glitchy. And this also guarantees less of a gap between chord changes. But let's just go ahead and for a second embrace the sort of jumpy sound that can happen when things are less than perfect. One of the things we could do is just leave parameter 3 at 4. And what this will do is if we have this play the whole way through, let's have it start at a different point. And now we can start really embracing that sort of wonky rhythm that comes with that. We could even change it to being 3. We could make it 8th notes. We could also go a little further and add the LFO. So I'm turning on the LFO. I'm going to make it relatively slow and pretty subtle. I'm going to send it to synth parameter 2. So that is our playback speed. And so this should make it so that there's some variation there. I might have to try more extreme values so that way we can hear it clearly, but let's go ahead and change this back to 16, and let's play this back. So without the original track, and so just to remind you of what this sounds like, I'm going to turn off the tape track. So it's doing quite a bit in terms of adding texture to the track. For the next scene slash section slash example, I'm going to use these same principles to add harmony to our track. So I'm going to move to scene 2, and I'm going to create a new tape track. On this one, I want to check that the melody is also sending to the tape track. So 6 is where this melody is, and this is what it sounds like. So the melody is sending to the tape track. The pad is sending to the tape track. The bass does not send to the tape track at all, and the drums do not send to the tape track. So from here, let's go ahead and add a bit of harmony, and we're going to hear it both on the pad, and we'll hear a bit of that harmony with the melody. Let's start at maybe the simplest way, and that's going to be using octaves. If I increase an octave, it's going to double the playback rate. So here's what this sounds like right now. And so in other words, if I change parameter 1, be double playback, we hear the same thing as when we go an octave up. And then if I quadruple playback, it's the same thing as going 2 octaves up. If I do the exact note that we did last time, it's going to be a little too chaotic. Because I've got this melody track too, and because it's twice as fast, it's a little bit more intense. If I wanted to, I could put a filter on it. But still, this is just a bit much for me. So what I think would work best here is if we instead have it just last a shorter period of time. So what if we actually do have it mimic the beginning again, but we'll just have it hold that for this whole period. Or maybe instead of putting it there, we'll put it right here at on step 9. Maybe I only want that to happen every second time, so I'll use a skip 2. We can also go down octaves, so this would be half speed playback. So half-speed playback and quarter-speed playback are going to be a little bit... You're going to lose some of the fidelity, and that's A-okay. Higher speed playbacks, though, you're going to start to get into maybe some atonal territory. Like, that's not too bad, but if we increase this multiplier, it just quickly becomes too fast to really, like, perceive as notes. So let's get into more interesting harmonies. If we change the second parameter, we can change playback rate more precisely. And what this will allow us to do is create actual harmonies. So a fifth, if I play this chord, the ratio between these two frequencies is 3 to 2. We can use that information, that same knowledge, and we can change parameter 2 here to 150%. And now we will be playing an octave higher. Or not an octave higher, we will be playing a fifth higher. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to add this F all along there. I increased mix so it's a more subtle effect. Let's make it last the whole time. This is pretty chaotic, and part of that is because the playback speed is 150%. And so if I have it playing back 8/16 notes at 150% rate, that's only going to last for the equivalent of 6 quarter notes. So let's go ahead and increase this to, get this, 150% of the value it was before. And now this is going to last for the equivalent of 8 steps. The repeating part. If we add the effect sends, it'll sound even better. Let's turn this off in the mixer. If we want to get a fourth as our harmony, we can go ahead and go to 133% because that's a 4 to 3 ratio. That'll sound like this. A bit chaotic, and in this case you may just want to say, you know, I don't actually want that melody track going here. The rhythm's a bit weird because this is a different ratio now. If we're talking about it being 133%, that 12 isn't going to work for us, but the 8 might sound okay. Some other options would be a 5 to 4 ratio, which is going to be a major third, and that might sound kind of strange here. There might be some clashes between chord changes and stuff. Some of these smaller ones are going to just be more likely to be dissonant if you've got more melodies and stuff in the background. My point here is that there's a way you can use the tape track to add some pretty interesting and unexpected harmonies to your song. we can use our step components to have the notes jump around, which would change the starting point. We could use the arpeggiator. We can add an LFO on parameter 3. We can parameter lock all of that. There's a lot of stuff we can do, but let's just start with the arpeggiator. And by default, it's going to be a bit short between those notes. So I held shift and adjusted the first parameter. And what I'll do here is let's just add different kind of offbeats, I guess. If we wanted to jump around quicker, we could just make it so it's faster arpeggiator. We can change the pattern. We could move it to one of the harmony values. Let's turn off that arpeggiator now. Now let's just go ahead and just add a bunch of, I'm going to have a bit of a bias for that first starting point, but then I'll just do a bunch of other arbitrary ones. And what I'm going to do here is I want to make each of these, it's going to jump to a random, oh, where's random? 0. Jump to a random step after it's done playing. So I don't know exactly which notes will play, which parts are going to start playing back, or anything. If we want to make it less chaotic, we can make it so that the step duration is a little longer. Make sure that the length takes up more of the step. Let's make it even different. What if we change the track scale to 3? Let's just make it more extreme. Let's make it 4 times this playback speed. If that gets annoying, we can turn on the filter and take out some of those real high frequencies. We could also make it extremely fast, which is just going to make it, I think, atonal. Or just really annoying. Wow. We could probably make it really rhythmic if we changed the length to being really short. I wasn't expecting that, but it does just add rhythm, doesn't it? So those are a couple examples of ways that you could use sort of granular. You know, you might argue it's not exactly granular, but I would say it's kind of close enough. Especially because if I just want to, I could make it last the whole time. I could make it much faster. Scene 4 is when the drum break comes in, and this is when things get a little bit different. I'm going to go back through and I'm going to change all of our sends, which may mean that I need to switch out some patterns here. So for example, I know that the pads do send to the tape track, and for this part, I don't think I want them to do that. So I'm going to duplicate that scene, go back here, and then I'm going to turn off the send to the tape track. I'm going to check our melody track. And let's just duplicate that as well. And the difference is I'm going to make it so that this repeats endlessly. And let's go ahead and make it so that the tape track send here is also off. And finally, I'm going to go to track 3, which is where my drum break is. And I'm going to make it so that the tape track is all the way on. The send is full. Again, I'm using this Amen Brother break. This was, I believe, edited by Ed Solo, put somewhere on the internet where I found it in some sort of zip file, so I can take no credit for how good this sounds. In terms of starting points, you want to know that the very first one is this F. That's the very first beat. First offbeat is G. Then A is where this first kind of snare hit is, that second beat. And then the third beat is going to be at the C sharp. That's exactly halfway through it. And the fourth beat is going to be at this F here. And so if we wanted to just use that, we could do some really, really cool just kind of beat repeat type stuff. So for example, let's say that right after this, let's go actually right after that first snare hit, let's have it repeat that first snare hit, which is going to be right here, a few times. And so what I'll do here is I'm going to make it so it is just relatively short. I'll just make it so it's an eighth note, I guess. So that changes the rhythm, but it doesn't do that much. I could make it basically stop here if I wanted, and the way I'll do that is step components. So I'm going to add a skip component too. So it's only going to apply the next components every second time. And actually, let's do it every fourth time, so this will be more like a fill. And the components I'll have it apply is it's going to repeat that step 3 times, and it's going to play it twice as fast. But because it's repeating this step, we're going to not be quite on time with the sequencer. So I want to add this jump 9 to catch us back up. So let's go ahead and hear what that sounds like. So we're going to hear this note play. It's going to double that snare every single time. And then every fourth time, we're going to have a sort of fill from the repeats that I just added here. We can even make it more than that, huh? Let's make it 6 instead. So we could get really elaborate with that if we want. Like I said, you can parameter lock the LFO. So if we wanted to, we could make it so that so pitch would basically be parameter 2 here, and I'll just make it so it's pretty high up there. And let's make it so it's every 8th, 16th, 8th. I don't know which one that is because I don't think that the images actually represent the note values yet. So this is going to make it so that the LFO is changing. Actually, let's make it a little slower. The LFO is going to change the pitch and generally increase it once it hits this spot. But I want it to only do that every 8th time. So it should increase pitch. Couldn't quite hear it as much there, but that's okay. You could, of course, do what we just talked about before with the arpeggiator. So let's just add in specific drum hits, the 1, 2, 3, and the 4 here. I'm going to add in the arpeggiator. Somebody corrected me on that. I appreciate that. Going to make it so it lasts the full time. I will... Yeah, let's just make it so it's playing quarter notes, I guess? Or quarter triplets? We could randomize if we want. So if we do quarter notes, it's going to sound a bit more controlled. But one thing that we can do to add a little bit of chaos is we can change parameter 4 to have the destination, or sorry, page 4, the LFO, to have the destination of parameter 3. If we just have it kind of, not exactly randomized, but if it's moving this quickly, actually let's have it move, there we go, and let's just have it go pretty dramatically down. We should be able to hear the playback speed changing. Actually, let's make it even more extreme. Let's put a parameter 1. Way too extreme. So without the tape track, okay, so this is like the 5th time I redid this video, and I can't remember the last time I fit this much into a video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have questions. You can also schedule video lessons for me if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and just play through the 4 patterns that we have here, which are not super cohesive, but they just demonstrate different ways that you could use the tape track. And then I'm going to just cut off the video. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Here's the little pattern.